All right. Hey, folks, we are live. Thanks for joining us. Give me a second here to check if all of our settings are good. I see my audio coming out, and with me I have Jonathan. Jonathan, could you say something, please?
Absolutely. Good morning.
Absolutely. Good morning. All right. I hear your audio as well, and yeah, I think we are good to go. Our good friend Ivana is in the chat room, and she's saying she can hear us and see us, so we are golden. Let's start.
Awesome.
All right. So, good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If you
Happy
are,
Monday.
yeah, no kidding. If you are North America, good morning. If you're West Coast, you should probably go back to bed. We are in a quarantine. There's not much going on, so well, I'm sure we all have work, but it's too early.
Good point.
Again, good afternoon if you're joining us from EMEA, Asia Pacific, Africa, Middle East, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us here at Coded Live. So, welcome again. Like we have said many a times, this is our channel where we code, where we write code and we talk about things that we are passionate about, and we switch between different types of technologies: .NET, JavaScript, web, desktop, CMS, and other things. So today I'm actually super excited. So with me, well, first up, I am Sam Basu. I am a developer advocate here at Progress Software. With me, I have Jonathan. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Jonathan, please.
Sure. Jonathan Reed. I think my title here, Progress, is a solutions engineer. I don't really know what that means. But for the most part, I spend my time demonstrating Sitefinity. Ooh, I think we're getting a bunch of feedback. It looks like some others are mentioning it too.
All right, hang on.
Sure.
Okay, how about you speak now? I think I may have had the microphone audio coming in twice.
Sure.
There's an echo. All right, Jonathan, sorry about that. Say something now. I think I should be good now.
Oh, you guys didn't want to hear me twice?
Folks in the chat room, please let us know if this is okay. I think I know why the echo might have been happening.
Sure, no worries.
Yes, that's better. So Surly Dev, thank you for joining us and helping us out. So we'll hang on. We'll give you a hooray to say thanks for helping us with that tech things.
Good.
Okay, so Jonathan,
all right, we got multiple confirmations there, so it looks like we're good on the audio. Yeah, so solutions engineer is my technical title here as far as Sitefinity goes. I spend most of my time demonstrating the product to customers, clients, customers. But really my main passion around it is developer focused. I started on Sitefinity about 8 years ago as a developer working for one of our partner organizations. Developing Sitefinity sites. I took a brief break in there at some point, did a stint with Ruby on Rails.
Oh boy.
Yeah, well, he says, oh boy. Then I decided that I needed to be back into the Sitefinity world where I am now. So been with Progress for about 3 years. And again, our main focus for today is really just going to be taking something from the ground up and placing it into Sitefinity. And, hopefully we can make this an open source project and continue along together and meet more often.
Okay, awesome. So hold that thought for a second. In the chat room, Sir Dev, thanks for helping out with the tech check. I also see Tail Learn Code, much better, and M Quinterometrics and Paul Halliday. So thank you for joining in. Good to have you all. So Jonathan, where exactly are you?
Oh, yeah. So I just pulled up just so you could give a screen presentation here. This is our open documentation portal. So one of the great parts about Sitefinity, it is documented live and public. So no need to sign in or log in to get basic information about the Sitefinity platform and how you might code with it.
Okay, so hold that thought. What I was asking was like physically, where do you live?
Oh, physically. I thought you meant on my screen, man.
Well,
It's Mondays.
you got some ways to go before you actually get in, because I am somebody who doesn't know much about CMSs at all. So I'm going to start from the absolute basics and bore the death out of you. But where exactly are you?
Yeah, so I'm calling from Northeast Indiana.
Okay.
A little town called Angola, Indiana.
Nice.
About 45 minutes north of Fort Wayne, if you've ever heard of that.
Okay. Yep, I've been there. And just for reference, I'm in Northwest Pennsylvania, right up by the lake.
Right.
By Lake Erie, there's actually a town called Erie, Pennsylvania. That's where I'm at. Okay, so yeah, like Jonathan said, like he's been with Progress Software for like 3.5 years. He said.
About three, almost
Okay.
three.
I actually just hit 7 years last week, so it's been a while. I
Wow.
found this like really old like Telerik shirt that we had, but the green, the Telerik, this is like the really old school symbol or logo that we had. That's actually green that matches the screen, so
Oh yeah.
showing up as
I got
white.
a I got a Telerik backpack like that
Yeah,
that I got for helping out in the communities a number of years ago.
yeah.
So
All right.
I hear that.
Cool. So, chat room, you are actually looking at me and Jonathan, but you're looking at Jonathan's screen today. I'm going to be playing completely dumb because I am dumb. I don't know really anything about CMSs. So, this is kind of a one-on-one lesson for me to learn about CMSs and then, in particular, how to do something in Sitefinity, which is, again, something that we make, but we share the love. There are if I'm not mistaken, Jonathan, like there are billion-dollar websites and businesses running on
Oh,
Sitefinity,
for
right?
sure. Yeah, we definitely have Fortune 500 companies and a lot of good blue chip clients, if you will.
Very cool. Okay, so let's start with the basics. I am a developer with a lot of .NET background, and I've done some
Yep,
JavaScript. I've done some web. What is a CMS, and why should a developer
sure.
care to use it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So realistically, Sitefinity started in 2005, and it was actually built using Telerik control. So Telerik produced Sitefinity using its own flavor of tools. As it turned out, their focus was that they were developer oriented out of the box, right, or out of the gate, maybe we should say. As they introduced this product to the marketplace, it actually turned out that it was super easy to use for the marketing teams and non-technical users as well. So we actually, took a lot of effort. So being around for about 15 years, we've really focused on the ease of use for both the developer and for our marketing or our everyday users. So why do you need it? There's going to be a lot of different reasons on why you need it. One of our major focuses are your public website, but it's not limited to that by any means. We have internal portals like intranets hosted on Sitefinity, or even utilizing multiple web properties since we ship out of the site with multi-site management. So you may choose to implement your intranet as well as your public facing site all within a single platform. And you can pick and choose as much as you want to share. So back to the reason why you might want it is it is a really great framework for you to start with to build out your
Mhm.
content and manage um, uh, again data and or content from a single easy to use platform, and we can expose it really anywhere we might want. Maybe you want to expose it to a native script app. I see
Mhm.
progress. Hey. Or maybe you want to expose it to other applications or build integrations with it. We ship out of the box with simple web interfaces using OData. Also, Progress writes the spec for OData, if we didn't know that, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
So those are JSON web services. So lots of reasons, but one of the major focuses again is the ease of use for our non-technical team members, and then the framework that's actually provided by Sitefinity for a developer team to make it easy. So you're going to use things like HTML, JavaScript, Sass to build out the site with things that you already know, and you get access to full Telerik tools as
Gotcha.
well.
So let's take a maybe small step back. Like
Sure.
whenever we have like a personal blog or something, we put out the content on
Mhm.
CMS because we don't want to be too focused on maintaining the back end of the infrastructure of how something simple as like a blog works. But when you talk about building
Right.
like a big enterprise website, like at what point do developers, you think, switch over from doing things by hand to a CMS, which gives you so much more features out of the box?
Sure. Yeah, so repeatable content is going to be one area. So something like blog posts or news. So maybe we need to repeat it on multiple pages, or maybe John needs a blog post as well as Sam, or as well as others. So it'll allow you to easily
Right.
scale content. And another benefit, at least of our particular content management system, is the ability to build your own types of
Hmm.
content in the system as well. So common thing might be, oh, you have multiple locations across the world, or North America, or wherever you might be. you want to create some type of structured content for your end users to be able to easily create a new location by simply filling out a
Gotcha.
form, saving it, publishing it, and it's off and running. So really scalable content, as your business grows, either horizontally or vertical, you can easily grow with the platform as well. So that's where the framework really comes into use. Hey, little fawn. Um, is the framework and the scalability and moving out. And when you're hand coding, some of those things could be difficult. You might code yourself into a corner. Trust me, I've done it. Where you might not have thought about the whole picture, where this framework has thought about things like the publishing life
Right.
cycle as well as workflows and other components like that.
Absolutely. All right. So in the chat room, I see Little One on One, who joins us for a lot of our streams. So good to see you. I'll do a little dance for you. Sure, I get the thing with the CMSs now. So where does like Sitefinity fit in? Like, is it just a CMS, or does it like I keep hearing like a digital experience platform? What all does it do?
Yeah, so there are a lot of acronyms floating around in the content management world. You might have things like Web Content Management or WCM. Of course, you have CMS, which is just Content Management System, and then you have a relatively newer term coming along, which is Digital Experience Platform or DXP. If you think about a DXP and really even a web content management system, both at its center core are a content management system. So something like Sitefinity.
Gotcha.
When you move up into a digital experience platform, again, the content management system is at the core of it. The rest of it are integrations. So your marketing automation platforms like Eloquaz or Marketos of the world, HubSpot, there's many others, Pardot, whatever it might be. So here again, Sitefinity is becoming the central orchestration layer for a lot of this stuff. So you're obviously collecting information from users in Sitefinity. We need to get that data to the marketing automation platform, or you want to get data into your CRM, whether it's Microsoft Dynamics or Salesforce or again HubSpot is our common
No,
platforms.
that's a very good point actually, because like when we think about like web applications, we cannot just be thinking in a silo at times, because for an enterprise-wise distribution, like you have all of these moving pieces and you're trying to integrate and you're trying to figure things out. So that's where something like Sitefinity really helps. Okay, so you had the documentation open. Sorry, I was asking about where you actually live, not where the documentation lives. So walk us through one more time. Where did you start?
Yeah, that's all right. Us Indiana people, we're pretty simple. So I just pulled up quickly the documentation portal again, an open source for you guys to get information about how to interact with a particular platform, how to code stuff, how to get started realistically, which is really what we're going to cover today, and hoping to get some input for you, from the group out there. We have a couple different ways and paths we can go, but again, just bringing this up just as a general place to start. But do we want to dive a little bit more into the sort of the overarching technology and what comes with Sitefinity at this point, Sam?
It's up to you. Like I said, I am a complete newbie. Again, like so realistically, I've done a fair bit of Sitefinity, but it's always been like scratching on the surface where I'm not quite sure what I'm doing.
Sure.
So lay it on me. You can start wherever you want.
Yeah. So I think we have a couple options, and again, the idea here today would be really just to get a site spun up, and then maybe work in a base template, if you will, maybe some header navigation or footer navigation, something along those lines. I think we have a couple different options. Really, what we're going to need to get started is really a theme, right? So Sitefinity works with what we call resource packages. It is a quote unquote theme, where you can supply multiple themes for your site, especially if you're interacting with multi-site management. So a couple options. One is I have something that our design team built a while ago, where we might, it might be more something that you guys are interacting with on a, is this better? Yeah. Little one-on-one, I'll answer your question here in just a second. Is this better on WordPress? There's definitely differences, so we'll cover that. But yeah, So we could look at something like this, our design experience that we have here, where you might be delivered a design spec from either your internal designers at your organization or from the business or customer themselves, and then how we could really break this down into a content management system. So even just looking at this homepage here, I can see a couple different types of
Hmm.
content as well as a header and footer. So that's one option. The other option would be that we simply go and find a free resource out there, something on Bootstrap. Reason being is we ship out of the box with Bootstrap
Nice.
4, so we could easily go to an organization like this, bootstraptemplates.com, or sorry, startbootstrap.com, and maybe grab a free one to get going. So we'll work with those in here in just a few minutes and decide where we
Okay.
want to go.
So
Let's focus a little bit on the question at hand from chat.
yes,
Yeah.
go, yeah, go on with the WordPress thing because I'm curious how you pitch that.
Yeah. Is it better? Better is obviously how do I want to approach this? Better. There's differences, and one of our major focusing factors, especially in comparison to something like WordPress, is our security. So we are built on the .NET platform. Currently, we are built on .NET Framework 4.7.2. So we really like to focus on the security aspects that we have out of the box with Sitefinity. We're definitely not releasing things like weekly security patches out there in the world. We do have them, don't get me wrong, but in the 8 years of working with the platform, there's really, I can only think of a few major times where we're like, hey, you should really apply this security patch. And during those times, they weren't things that were exposed by customers per se. They were actually exposed by our own internal testing and processes. So one of the things that we really like to focus on, again, is the security factors. The other points will be its ease of use. Um, so the ease of use of the particular platform, once we get into it, is we ship with a drag and drop process. So you get some widgets on your right hand side, a canvas on your left. We're going to drag those widgets over to the left hand side to build out our page. We're going to have layouts to break the page into multiple columns. We're going to have widgets to interact with content from the system, whether it's news widgets or blog post widgets or even custom items. Again, we'll be looking at all this throughout our conversation. So, um,
So hold out
again,
stuff for.
better or worse is I don't know. I don't like to compare in that way. There are definite differences. We really like to focus on our ease of use and security functionality, both from the developer aspect as well as the end users
Yeah.
too.
So I have I'm getting old, so SpongeBob SquarePants pretty much captures all of my emotions. I have a fight going on. Mango, if I'm saying this right, Mango with three claw said yes, it's better. So no, it's not a comparison because it's not really not apples to apples. So if you ask me, like, if
No,
you have like
no,
a super simple personal blog that you want to throw up, yeah, WordPress is great.
sure,
It's just a matter of like a few pages, few posts, and you're off and running.
yeah,
And go ahead and do that. We would never say it's like no, don't say rest in peace. It's fine. But it's just like what you're getting into and what you're getting out of the
yeah,
box. All those integrations. Like I actually I can show a couple of sites that I run on Sitefinity that are like full-fledged websites. These are not just like blogs. You have different types of content. You have those integrations that Jonathan was talking about. So it's just a much
yeah.
more powerful platform that you're comparing it to.
Yeah, and I mean, there are integrations in WordPress, and I joke about this, but it is the truth. I mean, the marketplace there is typically full of people in their basement, much like myself, as you can see from my walls here, where our marketplace is full of business connectors, right? So we have Salesforce and those Marketos, but then the other connectors that are also placed in there, or our marketplace is full of a lot of businesses or consultants that have built that out. So again, whether it's better or worse is going to be a judgment by your organization. And yes, I think they both still have their points in the
Yeah.
market. And again, we are a .NET platform, so again, no major difference just starting out of the gate that that you know is a major contributing factor between that. I'm not a huge fan of PHP. I did something in college, you know, 15 years ago, and haven't really touched it since then. So you know, I've been a .NET guy.
Yeah.
So again, I don't like to ever really directly compare them. Again, they both have their places in the market, and don't want to detract really away from, you know, major
Right.
differences between the two. But yeah, we really do like to focus on the ease of use that we offer, and for developers and for you know, end marketing
Yeah,
and
and
business
like we
users.
always say, like choose the tool that works for what you're trying to build.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're
All
okay
right,
with that.
enough with the fight. So, if I
Yeah.
have made up my mind with Sitefinity, I see you bringing in some templates and some design. Like, do I need to install
Yeah.
something? How do I start?
No, so Sitefinity is a web application at its core. So to get started, we actually only need to interact with Nougat
Mm.
packages. So we'll walk through this process today. The only other tooling that you really need, if I can get my taskbar to show up here, there we go. Sam made me hide it. Is Visual Studio. I'm going to use Visual Studio 2019 today, but 2017 or 2019 will support. The only other things that you might consider using is we do also have a Visual Studio plugin, or a VisX, VSIX, which can help us scaffold out some components for Sitefinity as well, like templates, layout grids, and widgets. So
Hold that thought for
only basic
Jonathan.
requirements.
Hold
Yeah,
that thought
go
for
ahead.
1 second. I saw Vinhunk and I saw Narendev and give us a follow.
Oh, yeah.
So
Hey,
hey, we
welcome.
love you all. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yes, yes, welcome. Yeah, big about security. Yeah, I mean, we really do trust in .NET and the Microsoft framework for, you know, taking care of our security. And additionally, we ship out of the box with a web security module too, a little one-on-one where full control of cross scripting and other components right through the web interface that is typically restricted to admins, but you could add things like to allow different JavaScript libraries in or out. So yeah, big security features for us as well.
Okay, looks like you got people's attention with Visual Studio. So take us in.
Ah, yes, you're in love now. So actually, honestly, I think we can really dive in. I think, and we'll start a new project unless anybody has
Yep, go
any
ahead.
um, complaints here. So what we're going to do first is we'll go ahead and start a new project. All I need is an ASP.NET web application. Now, keep in mind, right now we're in the .NET framework. Just so you know, we do have components coming for .NET Core. So just to pique your components even more, we do have some stuff coming with version 13, which comes out in about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, for .NET Core. So keep your ears out for that as well. But again, all we need right now is a .NET framework, and we can move on to the next step. From there, we're going to give it a name. So my project name, so we're going to call this one Code It Live. Location, obviously, store it where you'd like to place it. I usually have a folder called work. So I'm going to take it out of there and place it in my work folder. The solution name, let's do a quick change here. Let's go ahead and I usually like to name my web application itself Sitefinity Web App, mostly because I'm old school, and I used to do everything with what we call a project manager. So two ways to install it. One way is via Nougat, which we're going to do today. The other way is with an installable application. I rarely ever use it any longer. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to call the project name itself. So that's the web application, Sitefinity Web App. That way I know where the CMS is. I'm going to give the solution a different name, though. I'm going to give it Code It Live. And that way, the reason I do this is because I like to manage my NuGet packages at the solution level. And also, we may consider having multiple projects involved here as well. So we can take use of the .NET framework and create a separate class library to code out custom components and other pieces of Sitefinity. So I'm going to go ahead and name these like this. Make sure we're on the .NET framework 4.7.2. I like to leave the solution outside in a different directory, and we can go ahead and create this project. We need an empty project here, nothing else to enable here. We can configure for HTTPS, that's fine. Go ahead and do a create there, and we'll let Visual Studio do its thing. While my computer spins this up really quick, just a quick note about the NuGet packages we're going to interact with. So we can go to nougat.sitefinity.com. Here's how we interact with them. Thanks, Visual Studio. Here's how we interact with them. It's a install, of course, the endpoint here is you'll follow these directions. I already have it installed in my Visual Studio, so I won't cover this in full depth here, but just so you know, it is out there and documented for you. I think, if you've worked with NuGets, you have a pretty good idea on how
So that's
to
just another
get
NuGet
this.
source, right? Essentially. Yeah. Okay.
Correct. Yep. Yep. Just another NuGet source.
Yeah, I think we actually have several things we host in like several families of Nougat packages. So if you are getting any
Yep.
of the Telerik bits, they are all in a Telerik Nougat package feed, and Kendo comes from npm, and Sitefinity obviously has its own
Right.
Nougat source. So yeah, just add them up as sources as you see fit, and keep going.
That's right. Yeah, realistically, I think the only difference between our sources and maybe the Telerik ones is I think you do have to have a login for the
Yes.
Telerik
Yes.
ones, but ours are public and open. The licensing comes with the application itself, so you download a license key from somewhere else, or we do always offer a 30-day trial, and you can begin that 30-day trial right from the NuGet package.
So it looks like in the chat room, Mango, what Three Claw. I think Jonathan just answered the thing that you're asking. Yes, you don't need an
Correct.
account, but yeah, you said it right.
Yeah. So yeah, just to confirm, you do not need an account, but you do need a license to run the application itself. And again, we do offer 30-day trials that you can sign up via the website, or again, we can start it via this NuGet package.
Okay, so
So
yeah,
real
so
quick,
at this point, like
yeah, go ahead.
you
No,
have
no,
just
no.
a boilerplate ASP.NET application, right? Nothing else going on. Okay.
That's correct. Yep. There's nothing in here really. Just some basic references that .NET Framework requires just to get started. So the rest of it will happen with the NuGet packages that we'll install from Visuals or from Sitefinity. Excuse me. Okay.
All right.
The only other thing I like to do sort of at the beginning here is I like to show all of my files just to make sure, because there'll be some files that get hidden by Sitefinity, mostly configuration files. So I just like to, at the project level, show all my files just to make sure. At this point, let's go ahead and add our NuGet packages. And again, I like to manage my NuGet packages at the solution level. Just my personal preference. And again, as I add new class libraries or if I'm doing integration testing or unit testing, it makes it just a little bit easier. Equals the best, management situation that I've noticed over the years. Real quick, before we dive into I'll just show you really quick the configuration that we have. Of course, you can see here I have my Telerik account settled in there, but here's our Sitefinity one. And again, very simple address here. I label it as Sitefinity. Very quickly, of course, as you know, to getting a NuGet package started. I like to switch my source to Sitefinity just to make the searching a little bit faster. And let's go ahead and do a browse. I do most of my work through the user interface here. But again, we can also do the package manager console down here. Completely up to you. Again, I do most of my work through this user interface. Makes no difference, personal preference. So let's go ahead and we're going to search for Telerik. .sitefinity.all. And this is going to be the base package that we, and it helps if I can spell things right.
I like the fact that there is nothing to install. You just bring in a NuGet package and you are up and running.
Absolutely, yeah. And even if you do decide to utilize the project manager, it's actually not an installable application. It actually sort of just runs on its own, and it opens and closes. But yeah, nothing to install here. Really just need this Telerik.sitefinity.all package. At this point, you can obviously select some different versions. So I just want to take a quick pause here real quick and talk about our different versions. So Sitefinity typically has 2 to 3 major releases a year. The things that are included in those major releases are new features. So it could be new marketing features. It could be obviously bug fixes are typically always included in major releases. So again, 2 to 3 major releases a year. These are identified by whole numbers. So you can see here 12.2.7200. That was a major release. Anything where the last 2 sets of numbers are changing is a minor or a internal or internal patch or build, which typically include bug fixes and do not offer new functionality. The numbers in my name are there to make me
Yeah, this is
seem more
Mango
than
White Claw.
It's good. It's good. Yeah. Mango White Claws. I'm still a Bud Light guy, but I appreciate it. I'll share it with my wife. Um, but at this point, really we can install whichever package here. I usually go for the last major or the full major release. Again, the internals or bug fixes, you don't need to interact with unless you're posed with one of those issues. And as a quick note, let me just we do out. Well, I won't pull that out, but we do outline when those are released, and they are bi-weekly. So actually, let's just use the newest and latest version here. We're going to do Telerik.Sitefinity all, and we're going to add it to our Sitefinity web app. Okay. At this point, all we need to do is click install, and then wait for the internet and PowerShell scripts to work magic here behind the scenes. Oh, looks like Curious Drive is still getting an echo to some degree.
I
hear myself twice, but I've just been ignoring
Well,
it.
you probably have the stream up.
Oh, that's a good point.
The stream.
I'll mute that one.
1 second.
Hey. Oh, Sam, you're so smart. That fixed my echo. That was probably the problem the whole time. Is that echo better now? No echo from little one-on-one.
Yeah, I think we should be good.
How about now, Curious Drive? Does that sound better? I think I might have had two things going here. It's just a very small echo. Okay. All right. Well, keep us informed, guys. Let us know if it gets worse or better. We'll make adjustments as needed here. All right. So right now it's gathering all the things I need. I will have to do an acceptance of a licensing or EULA here in just a second. Here we'll see how fast my internet here is in rural Indiana. Actually, we can make a couple decisions while it's doing some thinking here. So, what do you guys want to work with? Again, I have a design that we've done before. We actually have 4 or 5 different inner templates here, or page templates that we could work with, or again, we could use a free template from Bootstrap. Any votes from the? Oh, sounds better. Thanks, Curious Drive.
Yeah,
Good.
I also switched my audio out, so hopefully that sounds better.
Great.
Awesome. I like the designs. I like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good for whatever. The only thing we'd want to do, looking through these, is that we'd want to pick something that had the idea of a content item. So like a clean blog is definitely going to have a blog for us to style or something along those lines. So any opinion from the group out there on what you'd like to build? You want to start with a Bootstrap free template, or again, I have some designs that our team put together a while ago. Designs, good. Okay. There's 1 vote for designs.
I vote for designs too. Let's go.
All right, we vote for designs. Okay, I mean, I definitely agree. And what I can do, during this process is we can really look at all the designs, because me as a developer, when I'm working in that consulting world or I'm building a site from scratch, usually what we're getting is something along these lines, right? Where it's 4 over 5. What do we got? Some more votes? I can hear what you say very quietly, approximately.
Yeah. I don't see any other audio going out. Could be just like whatever you say in my ear is being caught by my microphone. That'll be really
sure.
tiny.
All right. Well,
let's do designs.
Yeah, make a white clock.
Designs seems
okay,
like
let's
the way
do
to go.
designs.
Or a couple of votes.
All right. So let's review the designs here, and we'll look through and let me make sure I accept my EULA over here too, so Visual Studio can do some stuff. Come on, pop back up. There we go. All right, there we go. Let me go ahead and accept the license agreement. All right, now as soon as I do that, as far as Visual Studio goes, come back, please. Thank you. Then it'll start to go ahead and get the packages, and start through the installing process of the Nougat packages. As soon as that's done, we'll be able to run the project directly from Visual Studio. So we'll do that in here in just a few moments.
I got my.
All right.
Sorry to interrupt. I got my 40-year-old shouting in the background. Sorry about that. But this is funny.
Right?
Yeah, it's. I mean, we used to apologize, but I mean, we are all stuck at home. Like, and quarantined. Being at home and working is not the same as just working remotely. So, it's our new reality.
it's definitely a new reality. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and take a look through these designs. So, realistically, as the developer, or maybe you consider yourself the architect of the project, either way, this process needs to be done typically ahead of time, or at least thought about to some degree. And that's, how do you want the site to be broken up, and what components do we really have here, and are there the capabilities of content to be reused throughout the system? And then lastly, are there things that we need to create? So are there content items or pieces of content, maybe like these menu options, that don't come directly out of the box with Sitefinity, and we need to produce something for our business team or designers to put together? So real quickly, we'll look through these. The first three here are really about the homepage here, and really the only thing that changed was these homepage graphics, just to show us some difference there. We have some inner page designs. Zoom these in. So, whoops, wrong key. It's a control, not a alt. My bad. Wrong app. Let me get back to where I was. All right, so let me go ahead and zoom into these. So one thing I've already noticed is I'm cruising through the designs here is menu items are definitely something that needs reused in multiple places. So here again are some menu designs on this page, as well as we saw them on the home page. So it looks like we're going to have to display menu items in more than one location. So to me, as a developer, I'd like to make that into what I'll call a structured content or a content item in Sitefinity. So we'll look at that a little bit later. Looks like we have some other customizations in here too. So looks like we need some type of mapping to be done. So we want to place a location on a map. So this also speaks to me in the fact that I need another custom content type to keep track of my different restaurant locations that we might have for this Coriander Lane design. You can also see we have things like address. We need to keep their hours, maybe some features of the specific restaurant, or probably amenities. That's probably a better term for that. Do they have a drive-through? That's super important nowadays, or pickup, or ATM, or whatever those things might be. Looks like there's also the ability to create some jobs, and of course the ability to find a location. So some custom components are running through my head, or extensions into the system. Again, the great part about Sitefinity is that we should consider all these things extensions, and that Sitefinity is a framework. So realistically, we can do all of these things within Sitefinity. And again, whether it's an extension to the system or it's full custom code, that'll be to be determined as we go forth. But for me, oh, hey, look, looks like Visual Studio's done. But for me, looking at it, I can see a number of extensions or what we'll call a custom widget, as well as some custom content
So,
types.
Jonathan, quick question: like
Yeah.
when you know that you have Sitefinity CMS to work with, and you are working with
Mm-hmm.
the designer, like, do you need to tell them specific things, like I want like repeatable things, or is it like
Yeah.
whatever the designer gives you?
Yeah, so I don't think you necessarily need to tell them so much. I mean, the CMS really should drive the experience for the end user. So I think the designs will reflect what you'll need typically in the CMS itself. The major suggestion that I might give to you is, just to make your lives as developers easier, start with a Bootstrap 4 framework. It's already in Sitefinity. So you don't have to import anything else. Now, you're not specifically restricted to Bootstrap 4. If you want to bring in something else, you absolutely can. I know there's other frameworks out there nowadays. Again, we really ship with Bootstrap as that best of breed platform for responsive design. But again, you can utilize really anything that you want.
Gotcha. All right.
Yep, great question. Okay, so we should be on our Visual Studio again here real quick. So it's done installing the Nougat packages, and at this point it's just asking us to reload our solution, as there was some stuff that happens behind the scenes that Visual Studio needs to reload for our project and solution. All right, so as we did that, we are ready to go, and we can run Sitefinity at this point.
All right. No code changes, just F5. Run it, huh? All right.
That's right. Yep. And if, the only other things that I typically do is if I start to add other class libraries, I'll set a single startup project to the Sitefinity web app. I mean, for the solution itself, that's really, the major changes that I make. But at this point, a couple other things to note real quick before we go too much further. We're going to use a Microsoft SQL database. I'm going to use a local instance of SQL Express. I'm also going to utilize a user instance of SQL Express as well. Not a huge, deal breaker or anything along those lines, just, giving you a full look at the stack. So again, Microsoft SQL database, really 2008 and above should be fully supported. The database user really just needs to have modified permissions to get going. Now, if you want the user to create a database, obviously they'll need more permissions like access to the master. So for me, my user account that I have, and I'm running Visual Studio as an admin. One thing I didn't note is you should always run Visual Studio as an admin for Sitefinity, especially if you want to run it out of here. Just part of the way it has to run some of the DLLs. It needs to run as the
Yeah, I mean,
administrator.
true,
All right, so a
yeah,
couple
true
other
for
quick
many other
notes
types of
there.
like projects. Like I do a lot of like Xamarin work, and you do need to
Absolutely.
run things as admin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same for there. Okay, good point. All right, I think we're ready. I mean, unless anybody has any arguments on why we shouldn't
No, go
hit
for it.
run.
Hit run. What?
All right, I'm gonna keep it in debug mode just because I'm hanging out locally, and we may need to utilize that at some point. Of course, will ask me if I want to modify the web config to turn on the debug mode. I absolutely will. As soon as that gets through the build
And while that's
process
coming,
here.
Jonathan, let's watch a little bit of our time because like
Yeah.
time flies when you're having fun. It's almost
Oh yeah.
10:45 Eastern
It
time.
is.
So
Holy
let's go
cow.
maybe another
Yeah.
half an hour. We want to be appreciative of people's times and not just keep because you and me can
Sure.
learn this all day, I'm sure. But we can maybe
I'll talk to my
yeah.
face is blue.
We'll
So
piecemeal this. If looks like chat room is enjoying what you're doing, so we'll maybe go
yeah,
until maybe another half an hour, and then we'll take it off another day.
sure. Yeah, we can do that for sure. All right. So you'll notice one thing is happening. It's going to spin up a local host here for me. Two things to keep in mind. So it didn't load, or maybe didn't load initially. So there might be a couple things that are going to happen with Sitefinity. So since we ship with what we call our web security module, we block things like HSTS. So if I try to spin this up on a different port, actually the browser will block me here at first because I've run other sites on different ports under localhost. So it will potentially block me. I think I actually cleared it before the call, so I should be safe. But if you ever run into that issue, again, this is security portion of Sitefinity, and again is HSTS. If you guys are familiar with that, I don't know every inner working of what we're really protecting there, but just to let you know, it does ship out of the box.
And is this HTTPS by default?
Yeah, so in the case of running it directly out of Visual Studio, yes, we will serve it under
Gotcha.
HTTPS.
So there's like a local cert that we are either shipping or we are using the Visual Studio one. Yeah.
It'll use the Visual Studio one. Yeah. Yep. And, for development purposes, there are other ways to set up Sitefinity. The other options are to directly host it in IIS. Then you can run your builds in Sitefinity and reload a local site. I commonly use that type of setup as well. I probably have 15 or 20 different, Sitefinity sites on this particular machine. So I like to host them in IIS, especially if I need to go back to them frequently. Okay, it looks like my HSTS is all cleared. At this point, you're going to get what we call the Sitefinity loading gears. You'll become very happy and familiar with these as they'll let you know when the project is loading correctly. You can change these, and there's also a loading screen for the initial warm-up when you're in production that you can also change the graphics for as well. Just a little fun tidbit. I'm going to go ahead and do an evaluation period just so you guys can see what it'll be like to start up a brand new project here. So really, Sitefinity will take care of all the rest. And in fact, Sitefinity is built using Telerik data access. So if anybody has worked with the open access components of Telerik. I know we don't package them and ship them any longer, but Sitefinity was built using that framework. So just if you're familiar with Telerik controls, getting into Sitefinity hopefully should be second nature here.
It shows confidence when you dog food your stuff to build other stuff.
That's right. That's right. So I'm going to create one using one of my other email addresses here. We'll give this a password. We're going to go with an evaluation period again, and let's go ahead and activate.
So Sitefinity did actually take over like the initial page load of like it took over the ASP.NET thing and gave you this shell and
That's
then the
right.
clogs to kind of start things up.
Yep, that's right. So we'll interrupt the first loading and let you know that the site is warming up or doing things behind the scenes. Oh, looks like I must already use that email address most likely. Let me do this real quick, just for the sake of time here. Let me just grab another one. Sorry about that. I must have used that email address at some other point in time. So real quick, I'm just going to grab a license file that I've downloaded. So 2 different ways to get them. All right, almost done here. Okay, so I will add a license key file. We'll go ahead and activate that. When I activate, it's going to show me what features I have enabled for this particular actually 3 different editions of the Sitefinity application itself. There's what we call a Pro Edition, an online marketing edition, and then a Enterprise Edition.
So
Major difference.
sorry,
Yeah.
Don, what did you exactly grab?
Oh, I grabbed a license
Okay,
key
a key. Okay,
from
I got you.
from a local folder. It's just a license
Sure,
file,
that's fine.
and then uploaded it. I should have been able to do my trial
No,
there,
that's
but it
fine.
looks like I'd
I had
used that other
a
email address
freak out
before.
emoji, so I'm gonna turn it off because you have it now.
Yes, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so I grabbed a license key that I had on my file system, and again, you guys won't be duplicating your email addresses, so that was my fault. I thought I had that one free still. So yeah, but yeah, I uploaded a license key file here. And again, it's going to show me the features that I have enabled for this particular license key. So our online marketing editions and our enterprise editions do come with a few more features than our professional edition. Most of those are around how many concurrent users you can have logged into the system, as well as marketing automation features like connectors for Salesforce or Marketos of the world, and then things like uh, translations management connectors for APIs, as well as a number of other components. I don't plan to focus on too much of those things today. Everything I'm going to show you is available with our Pro Edition and above, of course. So the next step of the process really is for us to continue here, and is assuming that the license is correct, which we already know it is because it got to this screen. We can also we can move on to the next step, which will spinning up our database here. Some other notes here too. You'll also notice that we have domains listed here. Sitefinity is also licensed by domain. So you can have as many servers as you want. So things like network load balancing doesn't require extra costs with Sitefinity, which is really cool. So you can network load balance or use Azure Web Services to auto scale your application as needed. We really, again, care about the domain you're serving it under. So whatever your domain is, .com, a subdomain also counts as a new domain as far as the Sitefinity licensing goes. Next step of the process will be spinning up the database. So where do you want to connect? SQL Server or SQL Server Express, SQL Server. So you need a server name, port, username, and password, database name. Again, if you're using this factor here, if you want the system to create your database, that user just has to have that much permissions. Again, for me, I'm going to use SQL Express here, and I'm going to put it on my 2019 instance. So SQL Express 2019, that just happens to be my name of it. Use whatever name is appropriate here. And my user account that I'm running under, JRead for my machine, has the ability to create new databases. So let's go ahead and do SQL 2019. We'll go ahead and continue to the next step of the process. Nothing else again for us to do. Just really just wait for it to execute its database work behind the scenes. We'll get asked a couple more questions along the way, and that'll be setting up our first really I call him the God user, but it's our made admin user for the system who will have access to everything throughout. So here again is our major admin user. So we'll go ahead and give it a very classy name like admin. Yep, I know. We'll go admin at admin.com here. Give it a password. Confirm the password. And the next steps. All right, so that's created again our main admin user, or our global God user, if you will, and we can easily watch the rest of the process. And you'll notice here it's going to give us some idea of what's going on, and you'll see it's altering and creating tables along the way. So this is that open access layer behind the scenes, really spinning up all the database stuff that we need. So the database tables, as well as stored procedures, indexing, all that stuff is being created behind the scenes right now.
Jonathan, if you ever get around to where I live, and if you get on my home Wi-Fi, it's still admin.
Oops. Okay, access to everything except my browser history, hopefully. I mean, yeah, in JavaScript, I guess you can theoretically get to your browsing history, No, not like that, though.
If you were to use, like, at any point, like, do you have to point it to your SQL instance, like a file or something, if you're using something else like that? Because yours was a named instance of SQL Express.
Correct. So what's happening behind the scenes, and if we go as soon as this is done, we'll look in our app data folder. So let's say I wanted to work in a collaborative development environment. So a couple other notes is we work perfectly well with source control. So if you want to use Azure DevOps, please, by all means, do it. But what we created behind the scenes is the MDF and the LDF files located in the app dev folder. So since I went with a named instance, it uses MySQL Express, but I could have easily pointed it to a shared SQL server or something along the lines. But here's my MDF and LDF file. So let's say I'm working in a collaborative environment. If you follow the instructions for continuous integration and continuous deployment, you should be able to duplicate the database on the next environment by simply starting the application. So you can do all that, especially if you're adding new components like custom content types. Pass it on to the next developer; they can do the work. You can also share the database across developers, perfectly fine too. And maybe the last and not so best operation would be to check in the MDF and LDF file and have another user, get it from source control. Obviously, we know that's not the best operation, as binary doesn't really play so well in source control. So again, we do create this file for you automatically. In the app data folder. And so if I do pass this on to the next developer, if they spin it up, it will spin up the environment aside from having the pages that I might have created automatically. So the schema would be the same, but again, it might not include the content. There are ways to do it, but we're not going to be getting into that amount of depth on this call.
And it's nice to have, like, any, like, cloud-based SQL provider you might have. Just bring it in with your credentials, and it can connect.
Absolutely. So yeah, Azure, Azure SQL as well as AWS are perfectly suited. Now, the only note about those particular environments is at least for Azure SQL, you usually have to spin up or usually have to what's the word I'm looking for? Promote the database through SQL Management Studio to those environments, as we don't automatically create them. But just a little side note.
Gotcha.
All right, let's see where are we at here. So we got our MDF files, LDF files creating. We can go back to our back to our browser here, and we'll see how far along we are in the process. All right, we're still spinning up database stuff here. We'll give us a little bit more time, but we can continue to look at our design. So let's do that. We can sort of really begin our process of breaking this down. So again, we've looked through a few different designs at this point. Location Finder, definitely a custom component in Sitefinity. As we look at some of the other types of content here or pages, so it looks like I've already noticed two different templates in the system. As you see here, this one has a header and a footer, as well as a sidebar here. As we get into building out our templates, Sitefinity also offers what we call inheritance. So I can create one template, say with a header and footer in it, and then inherit, say, inner or base templates from it. So I can go to one location, change header and footer, and it propagates out maybe everywhere. So lots of great features like that for inheriting content from or a template from another template so you can easily build content out. So we need at least two templates I've already identified in here, actually three templates, one for an inner page, one for a home page, and really a base template right now. So we got three templates that I know I need to interact with. So let's keep stepping through some pages here. This is the details for a news article here. So if you zoom into this a little bit, you're going to notice a couple other things. Looks like we have an also, you might also liked type of scenario here. So we may consider using something like categories and tags to show some common articles across things here. As we look down here as well, looks like we have comments turned on. So we're going to want to make sure we enable that. That is an out-of-the-box feature of Sitefinity. So we can enable commenting for really any content type as needed. You could also turn it off, for individual content items as well.
So Jonathan, no, sorry, no,
Here,
go on.
yeah.
No,
No, I was going to say, yeah.
go through the designs, and then
After you.
once you come back to Visual Studio or the website,
Sure.
I got a question.
Yeah, please. I think there's only a couple more to get through here. So it looks like we'll need to utilize an event calendar, also an out-of-the-box feature of Sitefinity, so you can manage events. And also the event component coming out of the box. Hey, Sam, guess what it's built on? Take a guess. Take a guess. Come on.
Looks familiar.
It's built on Kendo UI. Yeah. So we're going to use the scheduler. I believe that's what it's called, if my memory serves me correctly. And we can really customize the scheduler to whatever we want. So again, we are drinking our own Kool-Aid, and Sitefinity is really built off of Kendo components. One additional note is the rich text editor, as we get into it, also built off the Kendo editor. Looks like here possibly a fourth template, but realistically, I think we can make this one off the base template as it looks, or actually we have looks like right here, breadcrumbs. So we might need to create a breadcrumb specific template along the way. Let's keep going through here. Doesn't need to be a specific template here. Again, you can see using our breadcrumb template, so I think that's pretty good to go. But this is an FAQ type of thing. We do have a component in Sitefinity to build that out. It's our list capabilities. This is our general form styling here. Sitefinity also ships out of the box with a form builder, also using the drag and drop capabilities like the page builder. So this is our general styles of form. Again, since we're shipping out with Bootstrap 4, most of that's going to be handled with that styling out of the box. Let me skip through a couple of these. Some more styles here. Another inner page template. Again, additional inner page or page templates. Our search results, we do ship out of the box with search index results. It's built off Lucene, so you can customize it to your own needs, or if anybody has experience with Lucene, out of the box, we're shipping with that. And then lastly here, I think this is it. This is a landing page template. So our marketing team is going to need the capability of spinning up new landing pages frequently. In this case, this is about coupons. So, getting new coupons, placing them into Google ads or paid, keyword searches, Bing or whatever. They need a really easy way to spin these up very quickly.
I love to cook, Jonathan. Some of these pictures are making me hungry for lunch. I also see.
Wait till we get into the resources. It's going to get even worse.
I also see like a bunch of forms, and I'm curious to see how you handle those.
Yeah, so we're going to build those through Sitefinity in a drag and drop process. So we can do forms, we can build integrations for forms, and we also ship out of the box with a webhook. So if you want to use Power Automate from Azure, or if you want to use Zapier, you can get in very inexpensively and route your data to almost any platform that you use, right? I think... I'm going to butcher that name.
Hey, hang on.
There we go, Salt and Burnham, yeah. Yeah, Zapier, Power Automate. Yeah, we actually had a partner do a quick demonstration on how you could do that. So yeah, we do ship out of the box with a webhook. And we haven't really mentioned this, but we'll get into it. We ship with a full open API, both in C# and the web world. And it looks like our Sitefinity site is all started up here. And
by the way,
get into it.
Saltenburner is our good friend Chris DeMar, so that's a dance for you, Chris. And Jonathan, if I may be like a devil's advocate for just a second, like it took you a little bit of time to get this site up and running, and I think that's primarily because like that was your first time getting the template in, and it's literally spinning
Sure.
up the database behind the scenes, right?
That's right. Yep. Yeah, and during the development process, because it is a compiled application, you get some of that 30 seconds or so wait time as the application might spin up, especially after a
Right.
build.
And do we offer? I actually should know the answer to this, but I don't. But like, do we offer like a hosted solution where like we do everything for Sitefinity? Okay.
Absolutely. So Sitefinity really comes in two flavors. An on-premise flavor where you can host it wherever you'd like. So if you got your own internal servers, perfectly fine. Or you want to host it on AWS, Azure, or your favorite hosting provider on your own, please, by all means.
So in the chat room, Chris is saying he knows Sitefinity, and at the last gig, okay, so he's talking about Lino Tadros, who's a good friend of ours, probably one of the premier Sitefinity experts in the world, and he goes out and trains everybody on it. So yeah, good to hear a familiar name.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lino's good people.
Big heart, good people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I don't know.
The dashboard come up. It looks like it's all spun up for you.
Yeah, the dashboard came up. Yeah, building of components. I think right now, yeah, the whole world. Yeah, Lino's everywhere. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think at this point, well, let's take a quick maybe tour of what's in Sitefinity here, and then we'll take a tour of where stuff might go in Visual Studio. And I think we can at least look at our base template today and get the starting of it. And then what do you say about maybe planning another session?
Let's do another 20 minutes.
Going?
Show us around, and then, I mean, obviously we have a lot to build on top of this.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Took some of this time. Obviously, I'm talking a lot during this process. So, but yeah, the usual spin up, obviously dependent on resources. Yeah, could take about 5 minutes. Especially since it's spinning up that database stuff behind the scenes. But yeah, as we log into here for the first time, it already logged me in based on that global admin that I generated. This is the dashboard, typical place you land on logging into Sitefinity. It is customizable just like the rest of the platform. In fact, if you wanted to edit and modify this page, it would happen just like you edit and modify any out-of-the-box page in Sitefinity. Content I'm working on, we ship with recent blog posts here, but you can change this chart to be Google Analytics. You can then flow your analytics charts and graphs directly onto the dashboard. You get to pick the charts and graphs and the indices that you'd like to show, and you can put more than one onto the page as well. We do have an enterprise license on here, so if you do any trial licenses, it will be an enterprise license, so you'll get full access into everything. The other cool part about Sitefinity is if you do any types of proof of concept on that trial license, in order for you to use that proof of concept, all you gotta do is switch that license key. So some cool stuff.
So quick question, Jonathan, like this looks like you are the God user. Yeah. You set this thing up.
I am.
And if I am to work on this site with you, like how would you get me in? And is it like, how's the authentication part of it? Could I log in like through ADFS?
Yeah, so we do have integrations, of course, for ADFS. Right now, we're going to use our out-of-the-box user authentication and storage, which is built off of Identity Server, but really integrates with anything OpenID Connect. So anything Azure A to B, Azure B2B, B2C. Just come with out-of-the-box friends. I'll be your friend.
That's awesome. Does Sitefinity come with
we
friends?
do have. So yeah, we'll give you some out-of-the-box friends in the Telerik community. Much like our progress community, if you will. But yeah, out of the box friends, no problem. Hang out in the community. As far as the rest goes, yeah.
All right. So like you can essentially assign like roles. So like I as a developer coming in, I
Oh yeah.
can choose to see this dashboard if you allow me to.
Yeah, so the dashboard's typically an everyone kind of
Okay.
thing, but we can place components on here that might only be visible to maybe the
Gotcha. All right.
manager.
Little one-on-one is asking how many different
Sure.
license types are there?
So there's actually three different there is one other one, but we won't cover it on the top of the call, as it's only sellable by our partner organization. So we do have a large partner organization of consultants who can sell what we call a standard license. We won't talk about that one today. It's pretty trimmed down in what it has to offer. But the three that we'll focus on today, and actually maybe it's important to pull them out so you can see them here, are professional, online marketing, and enterprise editions. So here are our three editions. The one we're working with today, again, is Enterprise Edition. And the pricing that you're seeing here is really all about our on-premise pricing. So you get one production domain with it. The same would happen for our cloud offering for our product. The only difference between cloud and on-prem is cloud will be a subscription model, where on-prem is a perpetual model. You purchase it once, and then there's a ongoing maintenance fee, if you will, moving forward with the site. Realistically, again, the major differences will come around concurrent users, and then marketing fee on really these columns here. Also, with online marketing and the enterprise editions, you also get access to our experience management, which is what we call Sitefinity Insight, and it's our tracking engine for Sitefinity, and offers things like the ability to create customer profiles like personas, lead scoring, and personalize your content based on that data in Sitefinity. Didn't really plan on getting into that a whole lot, but a lot of customers utilize that to personalize their content in the system so they can speak to users along the buying journey, or other fashions too, but that's definitely the most common one.
Yeah. Like throughout, like as you're talking through, like the difference between you knowing your stuff and we just like literally tinkering around is so apparent because like
Sure.
we don't talk to customers a whole lot, and we don't know some of the ins and outs, and you speak to the reality. So
Sure.
thanks for that.
Hey, no problem. All right. Well, let's continue a quick tour of the site itself and the dashboard. Realistically, for starting things in design. Design will hold things like your page templates. These last two aren't commonly used. They're really there for legacy components. So we won't focus on those. But realistically, the starting place is page templates. To go back to user management really quickly, under administrative manager role and group to role type mappings, is you can absolutely configure that type of scenario. So if you decide to host both your intranet and your public site in there, and people with internal groups might be able to access the intranet, you could easily flow those to a specific role in Sitefinity. So very granular.
Just a quick point. I mean, there are literally
Yeah.
hundreds and thousands of sites we could mention that run on Sitefinity today. Just
Sure.
a quick note, since our good friend Sultan Burnham, Chris DeMars, is in the chat room. We host a big conference called DevReach. It's in the EU. It's in our global, where our engineering is in Sofia, Bulgaria. We are also bringing it to the US. But if you head out to the DevReach site, so Chris, I don't know if you're still around, DevReach runs on Sitefinity. So those are all the custom modules, like for speakers and locations, everything in Sitefinity.
Yep. Yeah, so all this is built on Sitefinity. In fact, progress.com and all of our product lines are built on Sitefinity, at least to my knowledge. I know we just recently moved in all the Ipswich sites to our progress.com infrastructure, all using Sitefinity.
Yep. All right, so let's
Yep,
go
fair point.
another 10 minutes, Jonathan. We got to
Yeah,
be
let's.
watching our time a little bit.
All right,
So show us around.
let's get to the point. A couple other notes here under content, just to sort of give a general concept to the lay of the land. Content is these individual buckets of our content items. So news, blog posts, events, imagery, all of these are out of the box components that Sitefinity comes with. You can customize each one of these for each individual business need. So something like news, I almost always add an image to it. It seems almost all of my customers want an image along with their news content. So you can come in here, add a custom field, then display that custom field in your Razor view. Oh, hey, side note, working with HTML and server-side code is going to follow the MVC model view controller development pattern. So hopefully that's something that you guys have been marginally introduced to, and if not, I think you'll be able to get it pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
no, it's fairly standard design paradigm
Yep.
for most web dev today.
Absolutely. So, so what you'll be working with mostly will be the views. Now, again, we can create what we call custom widgets, and you can create the model view and controller. But as far as theming goes, or the basics of it, we really only need to work with the views itself. So, enough being said here. Let's go ahead and take a brief tour of Visual Studio here and see where some components are located. So let's go ahead and in our Solution Explorer over here on the right-hand side, we can start to look at some different folder structures here. And really the major structure to focus on here is resource packages. These are our themes. We ship out of the box with this Bootstrap 4 package. As it's named, it comes with Bootstrap 4. What's included in it? Well, you're going to have your assets, client components, and we'll cover what each one of these means, as well as a package JSON. So in the package JSON, we're gonna, and we didn't install it yet, but we can interact with npm. So if we wanted to pull in additional resources, scripts, styles, anything, we could utilize npm and these packaging scripts here. Common thing I typically do is add a JavaScript minification, uglification component. We don't ship with one directly there, but we do ship with the components for you to do Sass-based CSS in the systems, as you can see here. Okay, so that's one major component there. So we do ship out with that. From there, under assets, you're going to find exactly what you might expect. So source is going to include our project source here. So under our main Sass file, I usually like to then break it up into additional components, maybe widgets for specific widget styles, and then each one a folder, then loading them up into the main CSS there. Vendors are pretty, obvious components coming from npm or other components, and then here's some specific stuff that ships from Sitefinity. Distribution or dist will hold our final minified and other folders that we want to expose to our pages. Client components, nothing too important to follow there. We'll hold that one tight for a second. We don't need to focus on it too much. But grid templates, this will allow you to break your site down into smaller columns. If you'll notice, once I open one of these up, like a 6x6 here, this is all Bootstrap based. So we can easily bootstrap up some new columns. Maybe I wanted this to respond differently in some smaller screens. So maybe this should remain a 6x6 in extra small screens. I could build out that components in here, but the users could also do it through components in the admin portion of Sitefinity as well. I don't need to save that. Lastly, the MVC folder. So this is going to hold our main components for building out the theme. So under views, these are going to be all of our templates for all of our widgets in the system. So we're going to jump back here real quick. And you'll notice that there's a couple names that are directly correlated with things like news, blog posts, images. Those would directly coordinate with some of these out-of-the-box templates, as you see here. So you see blogs and blog posts. We're going to follow a naming convention of folder as well as file naming conventions in order for you to easily control the templates that are available for a user. So anytime a user selects a page template from the layouts folder in a specific resource package folder, that's what ties everything together. All right. So here is this default layout folder, and you can see here nothing too overly complex or exciting in here. In fact, really the only custom components of Sitefinity are this SF placeholder here, where we've taken an extension of HTML and created this placeholder. This alerts the Sitefinity backend that this is a drag and drop place for you to start building out content in Sitefinity. So whether you're going to drag and drop a template in there or a widget, we need one of these to get started. All right. Realistically, we're going to create a new resource package for our site so we can name it in a way that we want, and we can also create, some more, complex layouts or something along those lines. The rest of these components here are really about what we call inline editing, where the user is allowed to directly edit the content of the site directly in line, say through the front end interface of a page. So we don't need to mess with those, but maybe just as the example today, we'll look at what comes in out of the default container, and then maybe for the next session, maybe we'll pull in a template itself. I think that might be the sort of the best course of action. So let's see what Sitefinity automatically pulls in with the out-of-the-box components. How about we go from there? So this is our template here, and also keep in mind that these will directly tie anytime a user is selecting the default template from here. So let's look at how all of it's tied together. So we can go to Design, Page Templates. And as we load into this particular screen, this is going to pull out, of course, the default templates that we ship out of the box, and we can also create our own custom templates. So behind the scenes, really the first time some of these pages get loaded up, they're going to cache out. So it'll take just a brief moment here. As we interact into the page caching area, or page template area, get the right words here. We're going to see a listing of all the page templates that we ship with out of the box. You'll notice some come with a specific marker defined as MVC. These are the ones we're going to focus on. We do still support web forms. Please don't tell anybody. I'm kidding. We do. I mean, mostly for our, legacy customers. Again, Sitefinity's been around for 15 years, so there still are web forms components for us to support. So that's where you'll see some noticeable differences between some of the templates. You'll also notice what they're built off of. So here you can see they're based on a specific either file or another layout itself. So you can see this one's based off of that default template from the file system itself, as well as this one here and a couple other ones. In fact, this is the one we're going to start with, the one that's labeled default and is based off the default Css Html. So if we open this up, we are going to be presented with one placeholder for us to drag and drop content and or layouts, and it's going to be called the same name that it's labeled in Visual Studio, which I believe I don't remember anymore. What is it called? Content placeholder 1 will be our visual representation here. So the cool part about it is you could label these up, and it visually presents it to the users as well. So main content area or something, if you wanted to if you wanted to, label it up for the users. As soon as I save that and reload Sitefinity, it would change that content placeholder. If I had anything dropped in there, though, the system wouldn't know what to do with it, so you would have to replace some widgets into the appropriate containers. But that said, let's go ahead and see what we created. And as you can see, we got a content placeholder 1. A lot of customers might even just go ahead and start right from here. Perfectly acceptable. If we want to give the end user as much control as possible, and the more that we put into the code file, potentially the harder it might be for non-technical users to interact with something. And in this case, again, we just want to show you quickly the ease of the process to get going. What I like to do here, though, is start to build out some components. So let's get a couple containers in here. And we might need 3, because realistically what I want to try to do is break it up into a header, a main section, and a footer. So I'll just go ahead and place 3, none of which might be the width of the full column or container fluid. In fact, next time we're going to go back and we're going to create a new one so we can get a container fluid and stretch the whole width of the screen, maybe for some banners or some other look if you think back to our designs.
Yeah, maybe,
But again, just to show the basics here, let's keep going. Go
yeah,
ahead, Sam.
maybe I was again looking at the time, Jonathan. Maybe like this template,
Yeah.
like this container, maybe the logical thing for us to end on.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a pretty good point. Yeah, just so you can see the ease of use of drag and drop, since we talked about it so much. The other notes about these layouts here is the users can come in and change, some classes too. So if I wanted to make this container fluid, I actually could. I could add the class in here and it would do so. We can also change the labels here. So this is what's going to be presented to the user. So I want to make sure I get a header in here. And now you can see it visually labeled that. And I could do the rest here. Based on our design, I noticed that we might need an additional one. No rules for the limits of drag and drop here. So we're going to maybe put our navigation in over here, maybe some other search boxes here. And lastly, I noticed that, maybe a couple column difference in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now we want to be mobile friendly too. So I probably should, take a moment and think about this in a mobile first concept. But at least, for basic demonstrations, we'll skip it for now. And then lastly, let's place some of our widgets on there. And let's go down here, grab a navigation widget. Again, bootstrap based, so I'll just drag and drop that here. And then just for some basic example, let's do a search widget, because a pretty common thing. So let's put a search box over here in the top right-hand corner. Again, a pretty basic operation. We don't have any pages listed yet because we haven't created any pages in the system, but we now have a template that we can work with. So at this point, we can publish it, and then we can go and utilize it in the page section.
Yeah, this is like where some of the power lies, like just literal
Absolutely.
drag and drop to light up parts of how you want to template your website.
Absolutely. And then really quick, just to do the proverbial thing that we have to when we create a new application is let's go ahead and create a home page. And top level, show navigation, all perfectly acceptable here. The next step of the process will be to select our page template. So for our non-technical users, here's the power. They don't have to know anything about the templates. They just need to know which template they need to select. And in this case, it's going to be this one called default. Next time, we're going to create a specific package for this site and label them a little bit more appropriately so they're easier for them to understand which templates to select. But the next step is you're going to see an exact same builder that you saw with the page template builder. Only difference is a single page, whereas the page template builder applies to multiple pages. We're still going to have our widgets over here on the right-hand side, as well as our canvas to the left. Now we're going to have our navigation bar across the top, as well as that search widget. Now they're not going to really display anything since we don't have any pages created yet. And wake up system here. All right, just one more second here. It's really eating up my resources.
I can hear my toddler waiting for his lunch.
Ooh.
You don't want angry toddlers.
No, I have a 22 and a 13-year-old. She's pretty self-sufficient in getting her own snacks, so that's pretty good. All right, here we go. So we've ended up into the page builder now. Again, same representation of our widgets over here on the right-hand side. Whoa, got my tooltip helps. This will help our non-technical users on board. I'm just going to go ahead and say got it for now, just get it out of the way. And now we could really build out our home page. And for the sake of our last demonstration for today, let's go ahead and drag and drop a container onto, or excuse me, a content block onto here. And we'll go ahead and create the page. Checking on an exception there. We'll go ahead and create the page content. Not sure what's going on there. Here we go. And as you get into here, some of you might already recognize this editor as the Kendo Editor. So we can go ahead and create some content. And of course, what we must do is a hello world. Out of the box styling, you can even add your own custom classes in up here to maintain brand, which I love to do. So most of this load time is based on my resources here. I'm pegging out at like 90% resource users or more here. So some of that's to do with that. You can turn off some things like pre-compilation during development process to help make things a little bit faster. And then if you're really focusing on front end, I typically host the site in IIS and then do all my front end changes as needed. CSS. SAS, those type of components, compiling it through npm, reloading the page, that new content would be premiered. Most of these are taking some period of time because they're the first step through in the caching process of the way Sitefinity works.
Yeah, so in the chat room, Quinter Matrix is saying ways to improve load speed, Sitefinity.
Yep.
So you're actually not getting the real picture here because like we're doing a Skype call and it's our resources are being pegged. But once you get this up and running after the first time you create a database, things are fast and furious. All right, Jonathan. So you got us to quite a bit down the line, creating templates and containers and placeholders. And clearly, you're trying to think about the end user being non-technical so that they can move things around and get this going as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me ask the chat room here, would you folks like to keep going on this and actually have Jonathan build out a full site with some of these designs that we got? Kind of shows you maybe some of the steps and the attention to detail sometimes that you need, but I think this is going to be a good exercise.
Yeah, and we're going ahead and just as the last quick note here, we'll go ahead and publish this page. We can see it's been published. We published it, but real quick, on one of the things that we ship out with too is the ability to preview it for mobile.
Oh, nice.
So we can check it out in our iPhone there, or maybe an iPad Air. Marketing and business users love this. You can also see now we have our home navigation in there as well. Of course, preview for desktop.
So it's real easy to like kind of prototype stuff and quickly show it to your customers.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there are other ways too that we can share things like preview links outside the organization, or during your build process if you'd like to expose it to internal users, but you don't want to create a username and password. You can just do it via email address. So yeah, lots of great utilities for collaboration in here as well.
Sweet. Hey, so Little One-on-One is saying loving it. Let's keep going. So we'll circle back and keep on building on this. So again, folks in the chat room, if you're new to this, our channel here, this is Coded Life. We code about a bunch of different things, and we go throughout the week. So I think Wednesday we'll do React. I do Xamarin on Thursdays, and Friday we are starting up like a social chat show thing as well. So just keep on hopping on whenever we stream, and we love you all. Jonathan, I want to thank you for taking me from absolute basics of not knowing anything to a point where I can start building out a site in Sitefinity. This is awesome.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, and look forward to meeting with all you again.
All right, and we will post. There's a calendar right down on our page. If you just scroll a little under the video, it's on the left, so you will know exactly when we go live again, and I'll have Jonathan back on to take us forward.
Absolutely.
All right, folks. Like I said, we love you all. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thanks for all that you do, and stay safe, stay productive, and we shall see you next time here on Coded Live. Okay. All right. Bye-bye now.